When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
Thinking about it now gives me chills. But in the moment, I was enthralled. I slowly walked toward the creature, almost as if I wasn't in control of my own body.
He was speeding, swerving, and driving with no hands. I was so worried that we'd crash, but since he was being so erratic, I was afraid of what would happen if I confronted him.
From Killer Podcasts. True tales of horror, bizarre happenings, unexplainable events. This is Disturbed. Hello and welcome back to the show. This week we have 4 true stories that will make your skin crawl. So sit back, listen closely, and dive into the horror. First, a recent high school graduate sees someone lurking in the crowd, and he becomes her shadow. Narrated by Rachael Caise. From Reddit user SparklyHeels22.
I am an alcoholic, and I've been sober for 9 years. That is, without a doubt, my proudest accomplishment. I grew up in Los Angeles, but not the touristy part. My neighborhood had liquor stores every few blocks and corner shops with thick plexiglass windows. Alcoholism was really common and normalized, so recovery has been tough. I started getting help during my sophomore year of high school. Looking back, I'm so grateful for the timing. If I had hit rock bottom later, things would have only gotten worse. My parents actually transferred me to a different school so that I could start fresh and meet new people. By the time I turned 18, a few months before graduation, I had already been sober for over 2 years. That was around the time that I started aging out of most teen recovery programs. A lot of the counselors that I worked with only focused on youth cases, so I had to start finding adult support groups. I started going to early morning AA meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They were held in a small church near my school. I didn't have first period on those days, so it worked out perfectly. After the meetings, I would usually stay for a couple extra minutes to write in my journal, or just sit in silence. One morning, this guy stayed after the meeting and asked me what I was writing. I told him I was journaling. He said he liked the idea and wanted to try it himself. After that, he started sitting next to me at every meeting. He was about my age, and he seemed normal. We always ended up chatting after the meetings. He knew I was about to graduate and asked if I planned to keep coming to that group during the summer. I told him I wasn't sure yet. I had just gotten a job across town and was looking into meetings closer to where I would be working. I could tell he didn't love that answer. Sometimes you can just see disappointment on people's faces, you know? Anyways, I used to talk a lot in those meetings. I mean, I didn't go just sit in silence. I wanted to bring a bit of energy, and I like to think I helped people feel a little better. I think he felt that too, and I think that is why he did not want me to leave. People have told me I talk too much, so maybe I am just flattering myself and everyone else wanted me to be quiet, but I like to think I was making a difference. He asked again when I would be switching to a different group, and I said I didn't know yet, but I planned to keep coming through the end of the school year. During the last 2 weeks of the school year, I missed my meetings. Everything was just too hectic. We had senior ditch day, late night hangouts, sleepovers, goodbye parties, all that stuff. I took it as an opportunity to start a new group like I wanted, so I did. Then graduation rolled around. It went great, but something weird happened during the ceremony. I was standing on stage in my cap and gown, scanning the crowd for my parents, when I spotted him. The man from my AA meetings. It was so off. He didn't know me like that. Not only did I not invite him, I never told him where I even went to school. It probably wasn't hard to find out, since he knew I went to school in the area, and I often wore our colors, but we weren't close. Yet there he was, smiling in the back. After the ceremony, he came over to me and said he brought a gift. I looked at what he was handing me, and it was a box of chocolates. Attached was a note saying how much he'd miss me. He said I should drop by the meetings again sometime. So I gave him a clearly uncomfortable thank you and left. Even though it was super awkward, I moved on. He was shooting his shot, and it was obvious that I wasn't interested, so I just avoided him by never going back to that AA group. I wasn't planning to go back anyways. I found a new group and started going to that one. Later in the summer, I was working at the cosmetics counter at a big department store when that same guy walked by. Awkward. I pretended not to see him and continued on with what I was doing. A bit later, I glanced in his direction, trying to keep an eye on him. He was standing still in an aisle near my station, staring at me. He saw me look, and we made eye contact. He was almost expressionless, and he didn't say a word. I turned away and continued working, but I felt his glare on the back of my neck. He finally stopped staring and began rifling through the aisles, but he kept pausing to look at me. He wasn't even trying to hide it. I was really uncomfortable, but I didn't know what to do other than to wait for him to go away. Eventually, that's what he did. He left without buying anything or saying a word. I thanked God it was over. But then he came back the next day and the next. Every time he'd walk through the aisles and stare at me like it was no big deal. It's terrifying to know someone is constantly watching you. especially when you don't know their intentions. With every passing day, it felt like I was getting closer and closer to something terrible happening, and I couldn't take it any longer. On the third day, I told my coworker about the situation. She's the type of woman who does not play around. So she walked right up to him and said, "What do you think you're doing?" Calling him out in front of everyone. "You know exactly why you're here. Stop being creepy and toxic and leave that girl alone." All the nearby shoppers turned around to see what was going on. He was stunned. His face turned red, and he ran away without saying anything. We told our manager afterward. She was glad we spoke up, but reminded us to let her know right away next time. Thankfully, he never came back, and I haven't seen him since. Maybe he got bored and moved on. I just hope he was embarrassed enough to keep him from doing that ever again.
Next, a little girl wanders upstairs, and something is waiting for her. Narrated by Vanessa Singleton, from Reddit user Jin's Midnight Cafe.
I was about 10 years old when my family went to do a major clean out at my mom's house. It was due to be rented out soon, and it had been vacant for quite some time. It's a pretty old house, so even before we began, my aunt, who was also there to help, started throwing handfuls of rock salt in every room. My mom sternly told me to stay quiet, but my curious mouth itched. I couldn't help but ask loudly, "What is Auntie throwing?" My mom just glared at me, maintaining her silence, and that was enough to shut me up. Our family is of Chinese descent, and we are a pretty superstitious bunch. My aunt continued her ritual, scattering salt from the first floor, in the living room, in the kitchen, in the storeroom, then moving upstairs to each of the bedrooms, even the bathrooms and the balcony. And guess who was designated to clean up all that salt? Me, the only free labor available. So, broom in hand, I started sweeping it up. I worked my way up from the first floor, and as I reached the middle of the stairs connecting to the second floor, I felt something watching me. I looked up and saw a tall, shadowy figure standing by the doorway of one of the bedrooms. It put me in a trance. Thinking about it now gives me chills, but in the moment I was enthralled. I slowly walked toward the creature, almost as if I wasn't in control of my own body. I reached the bedroom, ready to come face to face with the figure, but he had vanished. All that was there was a dusty double-decker bed, illuminated by a ray of afternoon sun. I shook myself out of whatever that was and began to head back downstairs. As I turned, a loud bang hammered through my ears. I jumped back in fear. The bedroom door had slammed itself closed, even though all the windows were shut on this floor. At that moment, my heart was pounding so heavily, it felt like it would burst from my chest. Slowly, I reached out and grabbed the handle. It was locked. I began frantically twisting and pulling, but it wouldn't budge. My whole body was shaking. I was terrified that the figure would appear right behind me. Finally, the door opened, and I was flooded with relief. I ran downstairs as fast as I could into my mother's arms. To this day, I still don't know what I saw there. Maybe it was real, or perhaps it was just a child's overactive imagination.
Next, a driver toys with the life of his passenger in order to get what he wants. Narrated by Akisha Archer from Reddit user Sudden Eye 4177.
When I was 18, I went on a date with this 21-year-old guy. Things felt off from the start. He looked nothing like his photo, and he seemed strange. Even though I felt super uncomfortable, I decided to give it a chance. I was bored and lonely, so this seemed like the solution. We didn't really have a plan for the date, so he drove to the gas station so he could run an errand. I suggested we go to Dave & Buster's, and he said might as well. Nothing concerning happened until after we left. When we got back in his car, he started driving like a lunatic. He was swerving all over the place and even drove with his knees while his hands were behind his head, all the while joking about killing us. I don't know if he thought he was being cool or impressive, but I was terrified. I just stared at my phone and tried to ignore it all so he'd realize it wasn't working. Eventually, he drove us to a park. It was pretty late, so I wasn't surprised when the entrance was locked. But he acted like he didn't expect it. We just sat in the car for a while. I could tell he was trying to make a move, but obviously I didn't want that to happen, so I stayed glued to my phone. After a bit, I suggested we head downtown. I live near there, so my plan was to find an opportunity to leave once we arrived. He agreed and began driving us over, but the recklessness returned. He was speeding, swerving, and driving with no hands. I was so worried that we'd crash, but since he was being so erratic, I was afraid of what would happen if I confronted him. Instead, I kept dropping hints that I wanted to go home, but he wasn't picking up any of them. We arrived downtown, and he parked at a smoke shop. He said he needed a smoke break, so he went inside to buy a cart. As soon as he went inside, I texted my friend, giving her my location and updating her on how I was trapped with this madman. He got back to the car and we took off, this time heading through random neighborhoods so he could point out secluded houses he liked. It was so creepy. I mean, we were going to parts of town that were either run down or just empty. At one point, he yanked the wheel to one side, nearly hitting a pole in order to avoid missing his turn. When I called him out on how much danger he just put us in, he said, "Sorry, I'm impulsive," then launched into this whole monologue about his dangerous lifestyle. Meanwhile, he didn't ask me a single question the entire time. He just kept talking about himself. I was annoyed, creeped out, and fearful for my life all at once. I gave him hints that I wanted to go home, but instead he took us to an empty grocery store parking lot. He took off his seatbelt, moved his seat back, and kept giving me the look guys give when they want to kiss you. Of course, I was still on my phone and vaping to make it very clear that nothing was going to happen. After a bit, he said, "You clearly want to go home." I thought, finally, he read the room. Told him, "Yeah, sure." But he didn't take me back. He kept me captive in that car and decided now to start asking me questions. He asked where my family was from and what my last name was, which I thought was weird. When he found out I was Nigerian, he went on an entire rant about how Nigerians are evil and I must be toxic. Full-blown racism right to my face. It was so bad I disassociated, and now I can't remember much of what he said. Eventually, I told him I felt tired, and he finally agreed to take me home. He took the longest route possible and even missed a turn on purpose. When we got to the house, he parked and pulled his seat back again. I tried my best not to show any fear because I thought if he saw weakness, he'd try to touch me. After all of that, I said, "Okay, well, I really have to go." He wanted to schedule a time to meet the next day, so I just told him I'd be free and got out of the car like my life depended on it. Since then, I've blocked him on everything, and I haven't heard from him. I know I should have been more assertive about my requests, but I was just too fearful because of how erratic he was being. I did, however, check to see if I could Uber home, but it was really expensive and I didn't have the money. The only consolation is that I'm pretty sure I'll never go on a date that bad again.
Finally, we'll head to a late-night motel where a mother and daughter unknowingly enter a trap. Narrated by Robyn Unger, from Reddit user Pleasant Struggle 607.
When I was 10, my family and I traveled out of state for a family reunion. I don't know the details, but after some serious family drama and a lack of AC, my mom reached her breaking point one night. At around 1 a.m., she got up and left, taking me with her to stay at a hotel. Meanwhile, my dad and my siblings stayed behind at the reunion. We drove through the dark, empty streets looking for a place to stay. We came across a motel from a familiar chain and pulled into the circular driveway. In the middle of the driveway circle was a median with trees, and as we drove around it, we saw something moving below the branches. I didn't think anything of it, and we got out of the car. Before we walked inside, a man stepped out from behind the trees. He emerged from the shadows in all camo with a lit cigarette and asked, "Do y'all want a room?" I have no idea why an employee would be wearing camo and not a uniform, but my mom said yes, and we walked inside. The lobby, if you can even call it that, was really just a small room with a computer, a desk, and a few armchairs. He walked behind the desk and clacked away on the computer as my mom described the room we would like. She asked for a queen bed and a non-smoke room. The man nodded and asked, "Are you two alone?" My mom was hesitant to reply, but she said yes, thinking it was pertinent information to the room. He made small talk, asking what we were doing in town, how we were liking it, etc. When he was done on the computer, he grabbed the key and personally showed us up to our room. We were taken aback by that decision, but maybe it was a small town thing, right? This is where things got unsettling. Instead of just showing us the room and leaving, he opened the door for us, led us into the room, and showed us around. Remember that it was past 1 a.m. at this point and we were at a motel. The room was really small and there weren't any amenities, so there was nothing to show us. The room just had a bed and 2 nightstands. All I did was turn on the lights, open the closet door, and point to things in the room. It was really weird that he was sticking around. The other thing is that this room reeked of smoke. As soon as he opened the door, the stench hit us. My mom stood outside the room, arms crossed and on guard. I, being exhausted, stepped into the room holding my stuffy and my blanket, ready to go to bed. As the man walked into the bathroom, my mom finally spoke up and asked me to come back into the hallway. Her tone was stern, one that sounded like the pursed lip warning many kids get when they are in trouble. But this one held a dangerous edge to it. The man came back out and was milling around the room when she repeated herself under her breath. I eventually gave in, rolling my eyes in annoyance as I left the room. She grabbed me the second I crossed the threshold and moved me behind her. She asked the man for a truly non-smoking room, and he complied. We walked back to the lobby, with my mom making sure to stand between the man and I. He said he needed to ring us up again, so we stopped by the computer and he asked for my mom's credit card. As he was holding it, he said, "You two sure are a far way from home." My stomach twisted into a knot and I began connecting the dots. What was wrong with this guy? Was he stalling earlier? Is he planning something? Why was he in the bushes? Does he even work here? My panic was interrupted by a loud ring that echoed off the barren walls. My mom grabbed her phone. "Oh, 1 minute, it's my husband," she said. She answered the phone. "Hello, hi honey, what was that?" I prodded her. "Why is Dad calling? What is he saying?" She held a finger to my face, shushed me, and returned to her call. "We found a place? Oh, okay, yeah, we'll see you there. Got it, love you." I was practically tugging at my mom's sleeve, asking her where my sibling and dad were. She brushed me off, gesturing for me to grab her card. She got off the phone and turned back to the man. "My husband and kids are down the road. They already checked into a room, so we're just going to go meet them." We got the card and left the motel as I continued to flood her with questions. She stayed silent, looking directly forward while holding my hand. She didn't say anything till we were back on the road. Finally ready to answer my questions, she turned to me and said, "I lied." She filled me in as we drove, winding through the roads into town. Her mom instincts flared up the moment he opened our door for us, most likely trying to rationalize what was going on. Once we reached our room, which was easily accessed on the bottom floor, did not meet our specifications, and had a key that the man most likely had a spare of, she devised a plan. While we made our way back to the lobby, blabbing about a new room, she had been texting my dad telling him where we were and to call her. Her worries were further confirmed by the man's strange and overly personal questions. When my dad called, my mom ignored everything he said and crafted her own conversation to give us an excuse to leave. In the end, we found a safer hotel further into town, and we stayed there for the rest of our trip. It's terrifying to think of what would have happened if my mom had given in and slept in the room that weird man had chosen.
Want more Disturbed? Check out our Patreon for member-exclusive content, early merch access, and other cool perks. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed, a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more paranormal and true crime shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Follow our social channels at Disturbed Podcast on Instagram or Disturbed_pod on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and reviewing on your favorite listening platform. Share your own true horror story at disturbedpodcast.com. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Rachael Caise at White Bat Audio. Our producer is Declan Roars. Audio engineering by Nathan Corson and Will Prince. Executive producer Bridget Coyne. Until next time, stay safe out there.